All right, for song of the day today, we're looking at "Almighty" by Gunna. Gunna Fest just continues. I feel like only now have I really started to fathom his true essence. It hits in waves of revelations. Like recently, I was thinking again about Young Thug and Gunna, what kind of strengths they each have, what sort of things differentiate them. As I said before, I originally thought of Gunna as just like an inferior protege of Young Thug, someone following in his footsteps. But now I see him more of like an aspect of Young Thug, like a facet of him, but a full facet, one that can be contemplated in isolation, quite beautifully and movingly. And I was thinking too about how Gunna, meaning, like gunner, like the guy with the gun, is like Young Thug, such a basic name that it basically says nothing at all. Um, like I always thought it was amazing that Young Thug's name was just that generic, that it was literally just Young Thug. um, and Gunna too. So I realized that Gunna and Lil Baby are actually just the two aspects of Young Thug, like these two splintered avatars of him. That Gunna represents the thug part, and then Lil Baby, again, a very, very generic name, represents the young part. Lil Baby, of course, being youth. And thus, it's no surprise when the two of them team up and they make amazing songs like Drip Too Hard. But Gunna, on his own, being the thug of Young Thug, is still really impressing me as explore more of his catalog. So I've been listening to this album a lot now. Drip Season 3. This song especially has really addicted. I've become addicted to it. His flow, again, just kind of sounds like a Young Thug sort of flow. It's like a nice kind of bubbling, relentless feeling where it's just naturally percolating as he goes along. Um, I really do like the switch he does from the hook, the chorus or the hook or whatever, into the verse. There's this like kind of slight brightening and intensification that he does, which really impresses me. Um, I don't know. There's not a whole lot to say. It's just like kind of what I would hope for and expect of a rapper of this caliber and in this mode. What really gets me is like there's this thing that Young Thug can do, where his rap style is so kind of esoteric and idiosyncratic that it really brings out kind of idiosyncrasies of rappers that he's featured with that normally, because they're not as weird as Young Thug's weirdness, you kind of gloss over mentally, I think. Like you don't like I think Gucci Mane is a good example of this. Like Gucci Mane has never sounded more Gucci Mane-y than when he's rapping with Young Thug, I think. That's something about like the switch between them. You're suddenly floored with all of the aspects that most make Gucci like Gucci. It's extremely cool power. And here I think Gunna is able to bring this out of Hoodrich, Pablo, Juan, whatever. Who's a rapper I quite like already. I really like his collaboration with Quavo Quablo. That's a fantastic song. Everything else I've heard from him has been pretty good too. I want to get into more of his solo stuff. But he's got this like really smooth, low, smoky voice. And it's not that different, his flow here, from the flow that Gunna has been using in his verse and his hook. But just that he drops down like this half octave or whatever, and then he does this thing that I kind of think maybe now, like maybe a lot of rappers do this, and I never really thought about it before. But he puts his ad libs kind of over top of his own lines, and he doesn't like change his voice at all for the ad libs. Usually they either master it so that it kind of appears in the soundstage different, like they put it like way out in the stereo, so you can only you kind of hear it in another place than the original lines. and that differentiates it. Or often rappers will do like a different voice for the ad libs. They'll kind of like shout a little more. They'll up their pitch a little bit. But here, no, it's just like he just starts like pouring out of both bottles. Like the ad libs and the voices are just constantly blending and flowing over each other, and it's just such a cool effect. Like right at the start, it just like floods over you. I love it. I also really like this line where he says, "My bitch got an ass that's soft." The way he says "soft" here is so soft. It's like really really evocative. Um, I don't know. I'm very impressed whenever a rapper can bring out a quality on a word like soft, which I think inherently is almost an onomatopoeia that you can't help but say softly. But then in some performances you can take it, one step further than that, which is definitely what we're seeing here. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's a pretty basic song. Like, it's just your chorus, your verse, your chorus, your guest verse, and then one more time. But it's so effective, and I think Gunna here is able to do all of the things the Young Thug is normally able to do with these sort of guest focused songs. Like bringing out these sort of idiosyncratic qualities. So I'm really impressed to see that because usually it's like rappers doing kind of guest featured focused songs where it's more about the guest verse than their own contributions. Either just kind of like lob the ball in, so to speak, and kind of just set the stage but don't really do too much themselves. Or they sort of compete, which can lead to really, really amazing things, but can also just kind of lead to a sort of muddled experience without a clear focus and climax. But with this sort of technique, where you just kind of make it weird enough that you're attentive to all the details of the guest verse. That to me is like a really good method, like really consistently effective way to make this sort of song. So yeah, it's great. Okay, that's all I had to say about it.